Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, planning. Yep, I am a planning nerd. There have been quite a few lesson planning videos here on my channel, but today we're going to go a slight different way of thinking about this, because in this video, we're going to talk about how the lesson plan itself is actually the least important thing when it comes to planning. If you've ever felt like from year to year you go back and you think it's going to be easier lesson planning, or you dread lesson planning like I do, there's this frustration of like, I've been teaching for so many years, I should know these tried and true go-to lessons, I should be just redoing things. And it's just every year, as our Panini has taught us, every year is so different. I know for me, I have a traveling teacher, and sometimes at each grade level, there'll be like a grade level I don't teach at all the next year, different performances, different circumstances, and every year is just not the same. And so when it comes down to lesson planning, I get really frustrated that I've been doing this for a long time, and I feel like every year I'm just like starting from scratch. So if you feel like that too, I'm going to talk today about like a super key two key changes that I have made in my lesson planning process that have to do nothing with the lesson plan at all, in order to make each year easier and easier and still leaves flexibility in your planning. So if you're like, what the heck are you talking about? Let's get into it. So today I'm going to take you through an evolution of how I've lesson planned over the years from the beginning of my teaching till now, and how I've had this big light bulb moment here on my 8th year of teaching of how to finally actually make it easier planning from year to year to year. I started teaching, like so many do, learning in college to write these seven-page scripted lesson plans that you just don't use. It has a time and place. Like, I get it, a little scripted lesson plan your first few years definitely does help, but it has a time and place just for that first or second year. So I did that. I printed them out. I put them in binders.
Been waiting weeks to bust this bad boy out. New binder smell.
I'm like, all right, next year I'm just gonna follow this plan. And they sat on a bookshelf, never to be opened again and collect dust. Then let's go to kind of that third, fourth year. I started realizing I don't need to write these scripted out lesson plans. I'm wasting my time because I'm writing them out. And again, that helping with writing things out for the process really does help a lot, but only when you need to. And I was finding that I needed to shift my lesson planning more into an outline. And I was making these weekly or monthly outlines. And then I was also added a key thing, which is agenda slides. So I was starting to realize like, I don't have time to walk over to my binder and flip through and like remind myself of what we're doing. I'm gonna lose the kids in 2 seconds. So I started making agenda slides where I would list out what we're doing the day, so it kept me on track and them on track. And then I also included all of the visuals within one big presentation, and that worked actually really well. I love doing chef's kiss. I'm sorry. It worked. I almost did there. It worked really, really well in the moment, but I found the frustration was then the next year, there were some things that didn't quite work. My 5th and 6th year of teaching, I was still continuing to do that process, but I was looking back at, plans, and I would see lists or outlines of things, and I didn't know where they were from. I didn't remember what the lesson was, because as I'm finding, we really, as music teachers, we're curators. Like, we a lot of times don't have a full curriculum, and that can be really frustrating. And so you pull things from blogs, you pull things from other amazing people on Instagram that share their ideas, you pull it from books, you pull it from a little bit of curriculum that maybe your school has, but you don't totally align with everything that's in it, right? So you're constantly pulling from other things. And when I would just outline things, I would forget where they came from. I'd be like, I read a title and be like, what is that? I don't understand. The other thing is my agenda slides. A lot of times I was pulling, like for visuals, I was taking screenshots of things, or, my agenda slides listed out what we were doing, but I couldn't find the visual really easily. And so because of that, I again had this frustration of like, okay, I'm still kind of starting from scratch. Like, I kind of see what I'm doing, but I can't find this visual. I don't know what this activity is. I can't remember. And so again, just felt like I was starting over from scratch.
I couldn't find that file you wanted, but I did find a file called Bird Census 1980.
And this is where the two key changes that have happened this year has just changed my last 2 years of teaching. So in my 7th year of teaching, I really started nailing down I need databases. And I've actually talked about this in this is not big new news for you guys because I have talked about it before, but again, hang in there with me if you've watched some of my other planning videos because it's progressed even more. But my 7th year, I started realizing, okay, I need to organize all of these different resources that I am pulling from all over the place. I need to sift through the noise and figure out what do I like, what am I going to use, and then I need to categorize it. A lot of times, my Google Drive, and I started out the year, and again, I have a video on it, organized my Google Drive if you'd like to watch it, but I organized everything by lesson plans and grade levels. And it's just, that's not searchable. Like you're not going to be like, oh yeah, lesson 24. Let me go find it. I know exactly what's in there. I need that, right? And then grade level, every year is so different. Some grade levels go through things really fast. Sometimes there's years where you have to slow down. And so I have been starting to find, yeah, there are certain things that a lot of times I teach to a specific grade level every single year, but it does tend to kind of ebb and flow. And so I started really making databases and also categorizing my Google Drive files by concept, by season. And so they were like things like Valentine's Day lessons. It was things like I had a folder for just law and every law songs, law writing activities, law identification activities. And so I started really categorizing in that way. So when I like have a little pocket in my lesson plan where I'm like, oh, I need like a 5-minute game for law, I can go right over to my database or my Google Drive folder and open up the area where it says games for law. And then I can just pick one and put it in. Another real cool thing with this is I was making these databases in Google Drive and they would be tables and I would start to link everything. So everything that I pulled it from a source, I'd be linking directly to that YouTube video, directly to that blog so that I could find it really easily. And then I also was starting to make like seasonal databases and concept databases. What I have really found in music teaching is, there's two sides. There's the concept side and the seasonal side. And it's so cool and I used to fight that. I used to be like, seasonal stuff is just such fluff, but it's not. It's showing how music is really intertwined in our daily lives and our holidays. And so I really started realizing like that is like a really big part, especially in elementary music. So this helped me stay on track because I would pull from those databases all month and I wouldn't get distracted by fluff. I'd be like, okay, this is my database of stuff and I know I'm going to pull from these things for my concept. So I'm going to, we're teaching law that month and I am going to always pull from my law concept database. And then I'm always going to pull, let's say it's, February. Let's keep going on that. I'm only going to pull from my Valentine's Day database where I have a bunch of lists of activities that I could do. Okay, so let's fast forward to now. What has been these key changes? So I first, again, organized my Google Drive by concept and season. That has helped extremely well with me organizing instead of, again, by year in lesson plans. And then like in that lesson plan folder, I have a bunch of random files that I used for that week. It's great for the moment, but it's not great for later on where I need to find those visuals or I even just forget that I have them because I don't look back at those folders. So I organized. Then I found Notion and I am going to, shameless plug, if you didn't watch that video, I think Notion is so worth your time because I was making databases. Let me finish that thought. I'll put it in the cards above if you want to check out my Notion lesson planning video. This is where I'm making databases and this is where it's upping my database level. So I tried to make databases in Google Drive, which were essentially just glorified tables. And then I tried to make them in Google Sheets and it just still wasn't quite there. What I was running into is, as you probably know as a music teacher, there's not a lesson plan segment or a lesson a lot of times doesn't hit just one standard. It doesn't hit one concept. It also a lot of times can be for multiple grade levels. So what I was finding is I couldn't tag these lesson ideas with all the tags that I wanted to. And so with Notion, what's so cool about these is you can make these tables and you can multi-link them. You can say it's for second and third grade. You can tag it with a law. You can tag it with TA and TT. And so when you look at those tags, you're going to see all of those different things. So you can look at it in so many different ways. The other thing that's really cool about Notion is you can directly link to Google Drive. So I think Google Drive and Notion together, Google Drive is the organization and Notion is the planning. It really helps kind of go back and forth, this ebb and flow, so that you can find things super easily. And then finally, this last step. Okay, so I have these databases that I've created in Notion. I'm pulling from them the entire year. I'm plugging and go. Like, I just love that you can look at those databases and be like, okay, I need a lesson for this, or I need a lesson for that. You look at your database, you pick it up, you put it in your lesson plan. Like, you just have, and again, it leaves that flexibility that you can change from year to year, because you have a list of tried and true lessons or lesson segments that you can do that align with your goals or align with the season. Okay, so my agenda slides. I started changing where my agenda slide is just that. It's just the first agenda slide. It has a list of things that we're doing for the day. It has the learning goal. Maybe it has a little description on what you need for the day, materials. And before, I used to have that, and then I used to have all the visuals underneath it in the same presentation. But again, we're trying to get out of that, where it's like a wild goose chase trying to find those visuals the next year. So what I'm doing is every visual, every video, everything that I'm making it as a separate Google Slides file. And then what I'm doing is within the agenda slides, I'm just linking them. So I can quickly get to the visual, but the visual is itself, that file is perfectly in a wonderful, organized Google Drive file that makes sense and is searchable. So that together, the databases with multi-linking, multi-tagging in Notion, along with these little tiny Google Slides that are actually searchable, and you can find them in organized concept and seasonal folders, that together has just changed the game for me in lesson planning. And this year has actually been a year I've just started to kind of figure this out. I've implemented it for the last quarter. So in January, this is when I kind of started this. And so I am building out these databases as I go. And so what's been really cool is as I'm lesson planning, I'm all like, oh yeah, that works for Black History Month. Oh yeah, that works for Ton-TT. And I'm just switching over that little lesson segment into these databases. So next year, I will have just these beautiful, beautiful tables of filled activities that I can pull and pick from and plug into my lesson plans, because inevitably every year is different, and inevitably every year I get bored and want to do new things or different arrangements of things. And so this really helps you have a starting point, but also leaves that flexibility that every year is going to be different. That is it on my lesson planning is not the most important thing video. Is that a great title? I think that should be the title of this video. It won't be. Let me know, have you dabbled with creating databases for yourself? Is this something you're more interested in? I would love to, again, I have had a few people on Notion say that they would love to have a template or learn more, and I am just so excited to bring more on Notion for you guys and creating these databases. So let me know if this is something that you're interested in and you would like to hear and see more tutorials and videos on this. I could talk about this all day, but I won't. So I'm going to wrap up this video because I think it has been quite long, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye guys.